Okay, so let's have a look to see where we're up to. If we go to the PCR simulation and generate a set of tubes, in addition to all of the forward and reverse primers and the basic reagents, I've made a set of three tubes which already contain the forward and reverse primers, the polymerase, the buffer, and so on for reaction 1, reaction 2, and reaction 3. So that just makes it a little bit easier for the testing purposes, because otherwise having to add all of these reagents is just torturous. So I'm going to generate a plate which is just 3 columns by 1 row, and then I'm going to put 20 microliters of each of the constituents of each of these premixes into the wells. So this is saving a lot of time. And then having done that, I'm going to take this well over these wells over to where the PCR machine is. So I just grab it and move across to where the PCR machine is. Um, and the first thing we're going to do is check the settings. So that brings up this dialog here, just a little bit chopped off the top there on my computer view. That won't be the case in the real thing, of course. So this is where we can set the temperatures, like say 95 for the melting an initial phase. We might say that we want 65 seconds for that. This might want to be 58 degrees. This might be 1 minute, which is 60 seconds. And then the polymerization, the elongation phase might be, say, 87 seconds at 72 degrees. And we want 40 of the cycles. So having put those numbers in, the user can check that they are at least allowable by clicking on this button here. If they weren't allowable, say if someone had put in actually, well, let's suppose they'd put the letters in, then they would have got some error messages where the numbers weren't in the right format. Now, obviously, with time, I'll sort it out so that you can put the minutes in and you can put the degrees C in and that sort of thing. But for the moment, we'll leave it uh, just while we're testing. So having done that, we're now set up. Those are the settings. We load the things into the machine. They've now gone in there, and we start. And after just 1 or 2 seconds, the samples are ready. So the next thing we would do is make a gel, and that gel is actually made over here, of course. So we'll bring it over to our work area. We'll make this a little bit slicker, of course. It's one of the things that was something we had to sort out. Let's get a pipette then and put 5 microliters of, or 10 microliters of each of these mixes into tracks on the gel. So before we do that, we'll create 3 tracks, and we'll put 10 microliters of that one into there, 10 microliters of this one into here, and 10 microliters of this one into here. And if we run them, then we get some bands, and they're not quite as clean as previous bands because they are made up of quite a few little sub things, because there are lots of little reactions going on in there, and we'll tidy that up. But basically, it is working. The reason why this third one is not producing any bands, is that the the amplicon distance is absolutely massive, and that the time that we set on the settings wasn't enough to make that work. But the crucial thing is now that we've got a lot more sophistication, because we're now looking at every stage of the cycle. So if I bring in the script for this, um, when we, if I go to the chain reaction one, when what we're doing is continually monitoring how many strands there are of forward and reverse, what happens when you melt the amplicons, what happens when the primers anneal, what happens when the polymerase is active, and basically it now gels together in a way that makes sense with all the settings of melt temperature, annealing temperature, elongation time, the cycles, the TM, and so on. But as you can imagine, there's an absolute ton of stuff now to check. And that is not just for the PCR machine, that's also for the gel running, because we have to be able to pick up every single species that might be in this track and produce a band of the right density to reflect the quantity that there is. And we also want to start changing the background of this as well. So that's where we're up to. The bottom line is that we've got tremendous sophistication now in being able to take into account all of these PCR settings and all of the parameters of the polymerase and the, the primers and what have you. So we're getting there, and that's where we are.